after years of shying away from gambling, sports leagues have fully embraced it. But this balancing act of condoning it while also making rules for players and league personnel, it's proving rather difficult. The NFL suspended 3 players indefinitely this week, with a 4th player getting sidelined for 6 games for violating the league's gambling policy. 5 other players were suspended in April. Joining us now is Chad Millman, the Chief Content Officer at the Action Network. It focuses on the sports betting space. Chad, good to talk to you. First of all, the NFL has made it clear that integrity is the priority. You talk to other league commissioners, team owners, they will all say the same thing. So where's the disconnect between what's the priority for the bosses and what's happening with the players?
Well, look, it's like any other element of regulation that the players have to abide by, whether it's what they're doing on the field or how they're taking care of their bodies and what they're allowed to put into their bodies. The NFL is in the gaming space. All the leagues are in the gaming space at this point. It's legal, it's regulated. It's a lot of money for them to ignore if they're not in it. So now they have to figure out, how do we police the players? And that's where it gets a little bit trickier, because a lot of the rules are very clear. There's one story about Isaiah Rodgers, a player for the Colts. This story was broken by Sports Handle. He had gambled on players on his team and their individual performance. That is a no-no. That is going to be a no-no. That is a black and white no-no. Everybody should know that. There's other regulations that are a little bit harder to follow about where you can gamble and where you can't gamble. And some players are finding themselves tripped up by these gray areas that all the leagues are trying to navigate.
Like, you can't place bets on sports from team facilities. That's the rule. And so when they go on and they make even if they're betting on golf, it still violates the rules. Okay, so that's one. I think that's. I just want to put it in perspective for the investing audience about why this matters, because what we've seen is when integrity in sports comes under suspicion or skepticism, what you see is a regulatory backlash, both in sports and for the gaming regulators. And this regulatory crackdown, we've seen it happen in Europe. It ends up hurting the bottom line. So there is a cohesive effort to make sure that there's broad education in sport about the rules for gaming. We got to talk about this. Yep. You know, there's a forbidden word that would be like it's like a match between 2 guys who are out there and seeing who. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like to say it on TV, but DraftKings and Fanatics, you've got 2 charismatic, invested founders running these companies, and they make a play, both of them, for PointsBet. It's going to Fanatics, but Fanatics had to significantly ramp up its offer because of what DraftKings did. Can you set the scene about what happened and where we're going?
Yeah, this is when it gets really fun to be in the sports betting space. And this is what's fun about it being so new. We're getting these exciting corporate rivalries. And on the one hand, you have Fanatics, owned by Michael Rubin, who is charismatic. He is brilliant. He is competitive, and he has built an incredibly successful business through Fanatics. And he decided a couple of years ago he wanted to get into the sports betting space, and he's being very patient. But they are inching closer to launching as an operator in multiple states. And part of that plan was to acquire a lesser performing operator like PointsBet. They made an offer for $150 million as they were getting closer to the finish line, which was this week. DraftKings came in and decided to offer up to $195 million. Now, DraftKings is struggling to reach more market share. They are consistently second to FanDuel. So they thought, we better block a competitor, because Fanatics is a little bit like the boogeyman for all the operators right now. They know how much cash Michael Rubin and Fanatics have. They know they are going to be able to acquire customers. So DraftKings decided to try to block it. It didn't work out. Their bid fell apart. Fanatics came up by about $75 million, which for Fanatics is really nothing. And it gives them a little bit more of a competitive opportunity once they begin launching in many more states.